So she's always the optimistic one. So she kind of keeps me level headed, and she'll never let a doctor say like there's no more options. Like that's not an option for her. Like she's going to find, like, that's why we went to another state to get diagnosed, because it was, we don't know what's going on with your child. And she goes, that's not good enough for me. And that's not good enough for our family. So we need to travel and figure out what's actually going on.
I saw it at the hand washing station at the entrance of the NICU. I see it in the playroom during medical play bingo. I see it near the fish tank in the surgery waiting room. There is a powerful unspoken language between two parents who have never met, but know in their deepest soul what the inside of a children's hospital feels like. It is joy and it is grief. It is love and it is fear. It is miracles and it is loss. This podcast exists to tell these stories. I'm Katie Taylor, a very proud child life specialist, and it is my honor to be your host of Inside the Children's Hospital. Hello, my friends. I'm so happy to be with you today. Oh my gosh, do we have a great conversation for you. If you are a parent and your child was malnourished, probably the farthest thing you can think about is in the future that they would become a bodybuilder. Well, guess what? Today we are talking to Vincent. He is a wonderful person who lives in Florida, and he was diagnosed at 9 years old with a chronic digestive disease that would affect him for the rest of his life. This man became a bodybuilder. He is incredible. He has taken all that life has thrown at him. In addition to his digestion issues, he was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 12 years old and had to endure so much with that. And he decided that if he wanted something, he was going to go for it. And he absolutely has. He is a patient advocate now for the Oley Foundation, which supports families who need nutrition support. And this is just a wonderful, inspiring episode. And if you're a parent with young children right now and you can't see their future, I want you to look directly at Vincent, because he is such a shining star for what could be when you want something, when you put your mind to it. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean it's going to be the road that everybody else takes. It doesn't mean that there won't be pauses, because he says that there are pauses and there are adaptations that need to be made. But he is living proof that if you have your eye on something, you can go for it, regardless of your diagnosis. Let's get to the conversation. I'm really excited to have you on today, Vincent, specifically, because I feel like there's a lot of parents who listen to this podcast whose kids are younger, in and out of the hospital, trying to find treatment results. And you're like a living, breathing testimony of awesomeness that shows what growing up with having a chronic disease feels like. And you're just living proof that we're going to get through it. So would you do me a favor? Would you just introduce us to who you are, Vincent, a little bit about yourself, what you like to do, what makes you you, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, of course. Thank you again for having me. I'm excited to be here. And like you said, it's different. I don't deal with child life anymore, but I have some core memories of when I was a child, how much child life impacted me, when I was in the hospital and moving forward. And it was such a great thing that you guys do, and that every hospital that does. I think it's such a great thing that the parents have and the kids have to be able to do something. But yeah, my name is Vincent Rosche. 34 currently. At 9 months old, I was diagnosed with chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction. So basically, my full digestive system acts like I have a bowel obstruction, but there's no true bowel obstruction. So I like to say that I'm a really good actor. I just don't get paid to do it. So I was diagnosed at 9 months old. I got my first feeding tube at age 4. I got my first central line at age 6 with nutrition support for both. Pretty much lived my life like that until I was around 12 or 13. I had thyroid cancer at 13 as well. So I got that all taken care of. At 15, I was in remission. I've been in remission ever since.
Wow.
And now I work as a patient advocate for the Oley Foundation. I have done numerous advocacy speeches around the country before that. And before all that, I actually got into the gym for my own health. Actually, I just figured I want to try something that's different, got into fitness, absolutely loved it, and then went ahead and got 6 certifications, became a personal trainer, worked at a gym for 6 years, worked my way all the way up to number 3 in the company, became corporate, was the corporate liaison. And then now that I work for the Oley Foundation, I just kind of do some training on my own on the side, but I'm still actively into fitness. I have a motorcycle as well, so I'm constantly riding my motorcycle. I live in Florida, so we can ride pretty much all year round. And then I do have 2 dogs as well, and they are like my full life. Like, they are like my children. So, so I'm actually
Okay,
petting them right now because as soon as I get on a call or chat, they instantly wanna, like, get petted. So I'm actually with my hand right now petting her under the desk. So,
that's amazing.
yeah.
What are their names?
Adita and Mocha.
Okay. Oh, well,
Yeah.
we very much are big fans of dogs here at this podcast. I've got one laying to my right and another one out there too. So I'm a two dog
Yeah.
family member too.
Yeah. I just
Well,
recently got the second one like 2 months ago, and it's
how's
been
it
a learning
going?
curve. It's been good. It was a learning curve for me, I think, more than the dogs, because I was
Yeah.
so used to just having one, and I've had the one for 5 years. So she was, she had her we have a routine, everything's set in place, and then I brought home a new dog, and she was completely out of place, right? So we had to figure out
Yeah.
all the routines again and everything. So, but it's been really good for my older one. She was getting a little like lazy, I would call it. She was kind of sleeping around all day, and now she's being way more active. The younger one's got her doing more things, so I think it's going to help out. So
I
for
mean,
sure.
speaking of dogs, Vincent, and being inside a children's hospital, do you have any memories of having animal assisted therapy or facility dogs coming by? And what do you remember?
So there's 2 that stand out very distinctively in my head. One, the dog's name was Fred, and it was a cocker spaniel, and I was probably like between 8 to 10 around when that dog would come to the hospital. I don't remember the owner's name, but she was the sweetest lady. Fred would get on my bed because since he was a cocker spaniel, he was smaller,
Yeah.
and she was known for letting that dog sit on your bed as long as the dog wanted. Like, if the dog wanted to sit in there for an hour and get petted, the lady was in there for an hour with you. If the dog wanted to see you for 10 minutes that day, it was 10 minutes, but that dog loved to be petted, and it was such a nice experience that she gave extra time, and it was really enjoyable to have that. And then the other experience is my hospital actually had a dog with a prosthetic leg. So he would come around, and that was just so inspiring to see a dog that kind of had something going on as well. And then it was using, like, that prosthetic limb to come into the hospital to see patients. And those 2 really stand out to me a lot. But for me, the pet therapy was such a big aspect of the child life because I've always had animals since I can remember. Like, I think we got my first dog at age 4, and my mom still has dogs. We've never not had a dog. So when I'm in the hospital, that's a huge like miss, and it's a really nice thing. Those were the 2 that stand out the most for sure.
Wow. That's amazing that you remember Fred's name. Like, what an
Hmm.
impact for
Yeah.
sure. I feel
Yeah.
like it's such a good reminder of like you can remember the hard things, but you can also recall some of the things that really made a difference. I would love to know your earliest hospital memory and what that was and what you remember about it.
I would say it would have to be probably when I got my first central line when I was about 6. I remember being traumatized, like absolutely traumatized of what was going on. Because at that time, I mean, we're talking like 30 years ago, my disease was very rare. I actually had traveled to a different state to even get diagnosed. So in my area, it wasn't a common thing. So it was very traumatizing because we were just kind of shooting in the dark, it seemed. We were
Yeah.
just doing things. And my nutrition had got really bad where I had got super malnourished. And the last resort was kind of that TPN. And that was such a big change because the tube feeding was pretty easy, to manage as a kid with just the feeding tube at night. And, the feeding tube doesn't really have to be sterile. And there's a little more freedom with it. Well, with the central line at 6 years old, it was a huge change. Like everything had to be sterile. Like now it was like figuring out baths and like figuring out like how to be a kid while also trying to live on nutrition support. I think that was the biggest challenge, and that's the one I can remember the most.
Do you remember your parents throughout that time?
Yeah, I like to say that if it wasn't for my dad's insurance and my mom, I wouldn't be alive to this day because my dad was always really involved, but not as much as my mom. My dad was more kind of off to the side. He was always there at the appointments, but I don't think he knew how to really handle what we were going through. Like, I think he was going through his own stuff because I think he was a child of a military dad, so, like, he was the only boy of the family, so the boys do everything, like, they mow the grass, they do all these things, right? And
Yeah.
then here
Doers.
he is, he has a sick child that probably for the rest of his life is not gonna be a doer, like, I don't know if I can mow the grass, and things like that, whereas my mom, complete opposite, she was like, number 1, and still to this day, she lives about 15 minutes from me. She will still take me to the hospital if I need it, like, she still goes to my appointments, like, she is number 1 help for me, and together, me and her have really, like, overcome some horrible situations and figured out some situations, and my mom is very optimistic, like, even when I got diagnosed with cancer, she was like, "Well, it could be worse," and I'm like, "Thanks, mom, like, I know it could be worse, but it's still pretty crappy right now, right?" So she's always the optimistic one. So she kind of keeps me level headed, and she'll never let a doctor say like there's no more options. Like that's
Mm,
not an option for her. Like she's gonna find like that's why we went to another state to get diagnosed because it was we don't know what's going on with your child, and she goes that's not good enough for me, and that's not good enough for our family. So we need to travel and figure out what's actually going on. So we got diagnosed at a different state. So both my parents were great. They ended up getting divorced when I was 5. I think it probably put a lot of pressure on them to have a sick kid, like especially in the 90s when it was kind of rare and they didn't really know what was going on. But they have a good relationship now. Like as long as it deals with me, they're great with me and, their relationship. But it was definitely challenging, because like, I was pretty sick while they were going through divorce and different things like that, and then I
mm.
remember a lot of that. But, I mean, my parents were great during the whole process, and they really tried to make it as easy on me as it could be, which I appreciate because we were already going through difficult and heavy times on the family anyway, that something like a divorce or something like that is not what we needed to focus on. But they
Right.
made it as easy as they could. I tell people all the time, like, I'm thankful for the way they both acted, during all that time because I don't have memories of them fighting, or anything like that, which I mean, I'm sure they did. And
Yeah.
maybe I was just too young to remember, but I don't have those memories. I just have memories of them being separated in the hospital together, but never any arguments or anything. They were always there no matter what, it was very they did it the best I think they really could have.
It's it's a really great perspective that you offer for us right now, as a lot of parents who are listening are just it's so easy to be hard on yourself that you're not doing enough, that you're saying the wrong thing, that you've messed up last night's bedtime or tube feed, and you just feel all of this guilt. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I try to share, and I think it's what you're saying, is like the feeling and the message that you're sending are sometimes more important than the actual minute experience that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get down on ourselves that we're not doing enough, we're not being enough, we're not advocating enough. We let too much happen. We shouldn't have let that nurse hold our child down. We shouldn't have not advocated to this doctor. But what you're saying is what you remember is there was a lot of messages of love and support, and you know that wasn't the case every single moment, but that was the
Yeah.
message you got.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like, there's no book on this, right? Like, there's no book on how to be a parent on with a chronically ill child or a child that has health issues. Like, I think that was my biggest thing. Like, now that I'm older, I realize like how much they really did for me and like how impactful it was. Because at the time when I was, 8, 10 years old, like you're just kind of living, you don't really realize the impactfulness your parents make on you. But like, I think any parent listening to this, like, as long as you're trying your best I think that's the best thing you can do, because there's no book, there's no guide on, if your child's in the hospital, this is what you need to do, right? Like there's none of that going on. So I think it's really about just doing the best you can and standing up for what you think is right. Like if you notice something and it's clearly wrong, fight for it, stand up for it, ask questions. Like we have the right to ask questions and figure out what's going on with our health. Like specifically when I got diagnosed with cancer, like it was taking them days to like to tell me, like tell my family like what was going on. It took like 4 days after the biopsy to like figure out. And finally we kind of had to like advocate, like we need to know what's going on, because like what do we do here in the future? How do we prepare for this? Like if I don't know, like positive or negative, like what are we going to do moving forward, you know? And we really had to advocate, like we need to know like as soon as possible, as soon as you know, because we want to do the best thing that's possible for the situation. But there's no guide on that. There was no guide on, this is the best recommendation, and then you just kind of have to go with what the healthcare professionals say. And healthcare professionals, you know, sometimes they make mistakes just as parents do or just as the patient does. So it's hard to say. And, you know, I think that I talk to a lot of parents too, like doing what I'm doing as a patient advocate for the Oley Foundation. And it's, you know, it's sad because I feel like all they do is they don't want to hurt their child. That's, you know, that's like the main thing I hear is like, I just don't want to hurt my child. And it's like, you, if you're doing your best, you're probably not going to hurt your child. Like if
Yes.
you're trying your best and you're researching and you're advocating and you're, you know, you're listening to the doctors, like as long as you're trying your best, like there's going to be minimal things that are going to like you're going to do that are going to hurt your child forever and ever. Yes, it might, you might miss your tube feedings, or you might miss a medication or this or that, or you know, you do a different rate or something, you mix up something, but just take the action steps, you know, and then that teaches you later on. Like I know in my family, we made a lot of mistakes. Like, you know, when I was growing up on nutrition support, like there was no small pumps at home. Like there was a lot of difference there is now. And we made a lot of mistakes, you know, like, and nothing happened that, you know, was drastic, but it was just common mistakes because we're not medical professionals either, right? Like I wasn't taught to be a nurse, like even though I was doing nurse type things.
Yeah.
But my mom wasn't a nurse either. They had taught her, and you know, they teach you a couple times and then it's okay, you got this, you know, now you're going to be performing clinical tasks. And sometimes that's difficult, you know, because people that they weren't trained on it. And then also it's a big ask to go from zero doing no medical assistance or no medical help. And then also I think the medical professionals forget that we're humans as well. And
Mm.
like we have feelings and anxiety and depression and sadness. You know, like I couldn't imagine what my parents were going through when I got diagnosed with a rare condition and having to figure out what our new normal looks like, and, you know, how they were going to navigate working and keeping me in school and all these difficult things that like are kind of what normal people deal with, right? Like taking your child to school and sending them to school. Like that was a huge task for us because we had to figure out like what school could handle my chronic illnesses. Do they have nursing? So just even the small things, it takes more planning. And I think when, you know, a lot of medical professionals forget that that happens a lot. You're doing so much more behind the scenes, and especially maybe if you have other kids as well. Like I was an only child, so I find that was a little bit easier on my parents. I couldn't imagine if I had 2 or 3 siblings, like them having to take care of them plus a child with chronic illness. Like all of those type of things just don't make it easier, you know? And like I said, there's no book on any of this. It's just kind of trial and error. And you're just lucky if you make it out with no mistakes. And I think that the mistakes kind of teach you, you know, it's almost like anything in life. Like take what was good or bad about the situation and make a life lesson out of it and try to figure out where to go from here. You know, if that didn't work for your lifestyle, or oh man, like I messed up, like figure out how to not mess up again, whatever that is. Make a note, make a planner, you know, like write
Yeah.
down the steps and go over it. Like I know we had so many different steps in my house to make sure like we did everything correctly, you know, because of that one mistake. Or especially
Mm.
like traveling, you know, a couple times we had traveled and we forgot important things. And it's like, well, we can't forget those moving forward. So we need to make a checklist of like, before we leave the house, what do we have? Do we have triple, 30, 3 times, 4 times the amount of what we need just in case, So you learn from those things, but it's about, taking those and turning them into lessons more than like blaming yourself as if you're failing your child. Because
Mm,
as long as you're trying, there's no failing your child at all. You're just trying to be the best parent you can. And I mean, it's the same thing for a brand new parent. There's no guide on that. Like there's some books on how to parent, but everybody parents differently,
yeah.
So it's the same way with someone with illness, or you have to figure out what works for you and your family versus what the book really says, and that may look different for every single person.
Mm. Oh, it's so true. And it's like, even when there is a book telling you what to do, it's your story. And there's different variables that come in that you'll have to adapt to. But I like what you're saying about like the mess ups are part of it. The mess ups mean that you're trying to figure it out and you know better for the next time. You mentioned school, Vincent, and I would love to hear kind of your perspective of growing up as a chronically ill kid in the education system. And, things are probably a little bit different, but maybe not that different these days. What are some things you did, I think, did you talk to your peers about what was happening with you and what worked well and what didn't work well going through that?
Yeah, so I had pretty good experience going through school. I think because I was so young that I kind of just adapted pretty quickly. And a nice thing was is my middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school were all on the same property. So pretty much everybody that I went to elementary school with, we all went to middle school with. Everybody
Yeah,
that was in middle school all went to high school together. So pretty much everybody that I was close with, they kind of knew what was going on. And most of the school did too, because I would miss a lot of times, like especially in high school, I missed a lot, but they pretty much knew what was going on. My elementary school also had a certified like a RN, not just like a school nurse. They had um some kids also that had disabilities, and they kind of had like a special needs program at my elementary school. So that made it a little bit easier as well, because there was an RN there instead of just someone that they had kind of taught to handle, flu and cold and stuff. So it
sure.
was a lot. I think it took a lot off my parents, because knowing that an RN was there, and if clinical tasks needed to be done, like she could handle those tasks, that made it a lot easier. Um, and I think the biggest thing that helped, I know for me, was communicating with my teachers and like I guess not management, but like my principal and the assistant principal. Like they all knew who I was, what was going on. And at the time, it kind of felt like I don't want to be telling these people because it's kind of my own information. Like it's none of their business. But in the long run, it helped a lot for those people to know, because if I was sick for multiple weeks and I couldn't make school, we were able to make arrangements with like teachers sending me notes and different things like that. It was a little bit harder for me because I was actually in a different county when I was in the hospital. So my hospital was about an hour away. So Ted, usually when you're in the same county, they can send like a teacher to your school or to the hospital or maybe to your house to kind of help. But we weren't really able to do that. But I had a really good relationship with all my parents. And usually the first of the year, when we did like you go meet the teachers kind of thing,
Yeah.
we would usually ask them like, hey, is there a way that we can sit down with you? Because like my child has some special needs, and like we would like to just go over some things that could happen with you and just prepare them, because I don't expect a teacher to understand. They weren't taught medical things, and I wouldn't expect them to understand, but it was about us telling them, like, this is what you might see. This is what might happen. If he goes missing for a couple weeks, like, it's probably because he's in the hospital. Like, we'll let you know what's going on, like, as best as we can. And I just felt like making everybody on the same page. Like,
Mm,
okay, if he's going to miss this many days of school, how am I gonna make that up? Because I still wanted to go to school. I still wanted to do great and good grades and all these things, but it's difficult when you're in and out of the hospital and different. So
yeah.
they would send me stuff, and back then there wasn't like emails and all that stuff. So it was like, they would just print it out, and then my mom would go to the school and then go pick it up, and I would complete the things they had for me. But I really think about like voicing what was going on and what we needed, and really made everybody aware. That helped a lot. And then really having that, like what I was talking about, when like the same friends, that made it easier for me, because it was like I didn't have to go to new schools and meet new people and explain things. It was like pretty much everybody knows what's going on without me really having to say what's going on.
Yeah.
And it felt more supportive that way. But I would say middle school and elementary and middle school was easiest. High school, I think, was the hardest for me, because I was super malnourished. I looked very, very young. So at 18, I looked like I was about 10 or 12. So it was, difficult mentally, I think, because a lot of my friends had girlfriends and they were playing soccer and doing sports and all these things, right? And like I was hanging out with all my friends, but I wasn't doing any of that. So I think that high school was the most difficult time for me, personally, versus elementary and middle school. I feel like the other two were pretty easy. But,
Yeah.
I was also a lot sicker in high school too. I missed a lot more high school than I did, and I was actually concerned about, like, passing on time, but I was able to, like, get a full diploma and pass on
Um,
time, like, thank goodness, and I think, again, it had a lot to do with the teachers, being able to provide me the assistance and the help that I need. Without that, I probably would have been a couple years behind. So I'm thankful to, like, get a diploma. I walked across the stage and everything. Like, it was a great experience.
Congratulations. Oh my gosh. You're such an impressive guy. And what I feel like I hear you saying is like finding your voice and being able to share a consistent message with the people who are around you, whether that's your peers or your teachers or your principals. And I bet a lot of that happened because you had the support and like the safety net of an amazing parents, which is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing too was, like, I started seeing a therapist and a counselor when I was really young, because we knew that I was going to live with this forever. This was not going to be something. At that time, there was no cure. There was very limited even medications to help the symptoms. So it was like, this is probably what his life is going to look like, forever. And that definitely was a big assistance to, like, getting in, a counselor early, like figuring out how to, like, talk as well, because like, it's hard as a child, I think, to talk to clinicians and doctors about what's going on. And, they're scary people. Like, doctors usually aren't like, like, I had some bad experiences where they weren't the most friendly, and like, you don't want to open up to them about what's really going on. And then it's like, it's not the best for when a parent is advocating if the child can, because it's just coming from the parent. And so I think that that was a big change for me too. And then my parents always instilled for me, like, you're going to live with this. So it's figuring out the best way. And it may take us a long, long time to figure out the best way to handle this, but we're going to figure it out. Like, we'll
Mhm.
figure out how to navigate school and how to navigate work, and like whatever you really want to do in your life, we'll figure it out. Like, I went to college. I didn't finish. I'm actually back in school now. I just registered for classes actually yesterday, because I'd
Amazing.
like to go back. But I mean, I went to college some, I didn't finish, but, so it was really about just figuring out. I feel like everything that came at us was a new step. Like,
Mm.
after my cancer, it's like, how are we going to deal with this? After my G tube, how are we going to deal with this? And it was really about incorporating whatever the change was into our life that we were already doing. I think that's something that my parents were really good at. It was about, like, well, we still want to be able to travel. So, how do we travel? How do we
Right.
still live a life? Can we still go on vacation? Like, it was all of that. And then it was, well, let's figure out how to do that. And it was sometimes with the assistance of doctors and nurses or counselors or social work, because they had had the experience. But a lot of things was like, kind of, we just figured out on our own. Like, 30 years ago, it was just, let's try this. If it works, great. If it didn't, then we need to come up with another plan. I remember we really wanted to go on a trip, as a family. And the first time we went somewhere, we were like, this is probably not a good idea to just go to a different state right off the bat.
Mm.
We've never traveled before. So we just went and stayed at a hotel like 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
because if we forgot anything, we were 10 minutes from home. And I
Right.
will tell you, we forgot a couple things. My mom went back, got the stuff, and then came back to the hotel. And I tell that story all the time. And I think it's an eye-opening experience. Like, you don't have to travel across the country or to a different state to like test it out, because I couldn't imagine if we went to like Kentucky for the first time from Florida and then we forgot something. Like, that would be
Right.
so dramatic, and we'd have, so many issues, because at that time, nothing that I was on could have been bought at like a Walmart or anything like that. It was coming from home health agencies. So
Right.
it was, if we didn't have it, we couldn't do it. So that was something that we did, is we just took 10 minutes down the road, went and stayed at some little, not the best hotel, but it was a trial period of, is this going to
Yeah.
work? And I think we did that a lot with a lot of things in my life, like a dog, like we fostered a dog before we got a dog, because it was like,
Mhm.
is this something that we can handle? Is this something that's, not going to interfere with his health? Like, I think it's about just trying, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, you can try something else. There's plenty of things out there that can work for, and everybody's different. Everybody's family's different. The dynamics different. So you just have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And then just, keep that in the back of your mind and know we already tried that. Maybe we shouldn't travel because we forgot too much stuff, or whatever
Yeah.
that is. Or, oh, we traveled and it looked great. Okay, then travel some more, like it's about taking
Right.
those first steps about, I think so.
It's figuring out how to make the mistakes and, learning from them so you can figure out how to do it again.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about kind of your entrance into adulthood? And I know that working out and fitness is such a big part of your life. What does it look like now? And how do you find time and how do you adjust things that are specific when you head to the gym or something like that? Or do you work out from home? How do you make it work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I first started working out, my health was about 10 years ago was pretty bad. And we were trying all kinds of things. And I had always wanted to be active. Like, I had said my friends were playing soccer when I was in high school and things like that. And I kind of knew, with being a digestive illness that I have, like the more active you are, the better your digestive system works. So I kind of just got up one day and was like, I want to try the gym. Like, I have always been malnourished. I always was really skinny. And I was like, maybe it'll help me like build a little bit of muscle. Maybe I'll be happier with my body, because my body image was really struggling, being
Yeah.
like 24, 25 and weighing like 85 pounds. Like, it wasn't fun time.
Yeah.
And, so I started going, and I remember, well, I actually started working out at my dad's house, because I was living with my dad at the time, and he had some weights and like an old school like bench press from like 1980. Um, and I said, it was like November, like early November, and I said, well, if I can work out consistently, like 2 to 3 days a week at home, then January 1st, I'm going to go sign up for a gym membership, because I'm like that. I'm not going to go sign up for a gym membership until I actually like see if this is even going to be something.
Wait, I
So
love
I
it.
worked out.
You did the hotel 10 minutes away method,
Yeah.
but you did it with the
Yeah.
gym.
I did it at the gym too. Maybe my parents instilled that into me, because I do this very regularly on different things. But
Yeah.
so I started at the home
Baby step.
gym. Yeah, baby steps. Yeah, I started at the home gym, and then really with by January, I had already like maxed out all the weight we had. Like, things were going, and we weren't having
Yeah.
it wasn't a lot of weight. Like, it was probably
But
50,
still,
60 pounds, but still, from going from nothing to that, I was very impressed with myself. And I noticed like I was eating a little bit better. My health was doing a little bit better. So I was like, you know what? January 1st, like, we're going. So I went and signed up at a gym that was like 10 minutes from me. It's a Crunch Fitness. And it was a great experience. I was there for about a year. And the whole time, my doctors were asking me, like, what are you doing? Like, what's the difference? Like, they thought, you could tell they were thinking I was doing something that maybe I wasn't supposed to be. Like, I had got on a medication. I wasn't telling them. And I'm like, guys, I'm doing nothing different but going to the gym 3 days a week. And what
wow.
I did was I really started to like think about and research, because if I'm going to do something, I usually go all in. Like I'm pretty much if it's 0 to 100. So I was doing YouTube research of what I should do, and what workouts I should be doing, and what wouldn't hurt me versus what maybe would, because my doctors had no clue what to do. Like they hadn't had patients that were, at that time I was still seeing a pediatric doctor for my gastroenterology. So he kind of didn't really know what to recommend or who to recommend. So he was like, please just be safe, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on. So I kind of did it on my own. And then after about a year, I actually moved to about an hour north of where my dad was. I lived with my mom. And so I had to change gyms, and went to this new gym called Epic Health and Fitness. And I was there for about 3 weeks. And the owner came up to me, and the owner was like, hey, I see you're in here like every single day. Like, what do you do for a living? Because I was going at like 9, 10 a.m. And I was like, well, currently I'm not working right now because I'm trying to get my health back in order. Like, I have some health issues. And I explained to him what was going on. And he was like, have you ever thought about being a personal trainer? And I was like, haha, right? Like, I'm thinking like, this is a joke. Like, no, I've never thought about being a personal trainer. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing in here, man. Like, I'm just coming because I think it's really good for my health and it's working. And he was like, well, we really, really like to help people here. And our goal is to like help as many people as we can. And he's like, I think your story would be great. I think you could help people very similar to your story, like personal training with that. So I got my certification,
Wow.
and it took me about 6 months to get certified. And I actually went in there on a Friday and said, hey, I got certified. Like, and he was like, great, you can start on Monday by like shadowing and like watching over me, how I train people. I'm like, this is awesome. This is the best. I was so great, because I'm like, this is kind of cool. I'm taking what helped me with my health, and maybe I'll be able to help people. So I go to work Monday, I go to work Tuesday, and I walk in the door on Wednesday, and he tells me we have to shut down for COVID. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm crushed now, because I'm like, I found my thing. Like, I found what I'm good at.
No.
Like, yeah. So I'm like, I found what I'm good at. I found what worked for me. I just got certified, and I had spent quite a bit of money. Like, the certification wasn't real expensive, but it also wasn't cheap either. So I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I just spent all this money to get certified. I took 6 months. Like, and so the gym shut down for 3 months or 2 months, but every day as employees, we were able to go to the gym. So it was me, my boss, his wife, and one other trainer. And all we did was learn how to be better trainers and how
Mm.
to help people for 2 months
Wow.
straight. And I think that was like a blessing in disguise,
Yeah.
because like, if I would have done it another way, it would have taken so much longer, because I wouldn't have had 8 hours a day to get trained by some of the best people in the area. And I mean, my boss at the time, he had like 20 certifications. He had been training for over 30 years. My manager had been training for over 20 years. Like, I had great teachers that were teaching me this. So I was able to take in all that information. And then when we opened up after 2 months in Florida, we had a influx of people rushing to the gym, because they were wanting to stay healthy. They were like, oh my goodness, I actually need to get to the gym, because
Right.
like, I don't want to get sick and, have complications from COVID or whatever. So we got tons of people, and they pretty much put me with all the older people that had like balance issues, chronic illnesses, diabetes, all those past injuries. So I ended up getting even certified as a corrective exercise, which is for like after surgery and after illnesses and things like that. So it was a great experience. It was, I think, the most life-changing thing for me personally. And now I still go to the gym. I literally worked out this morning. So I have a whole routine. I wake up usually about 6:37 in the morning, and then I drink some water, and then I go right out to my home gym. So I actually built a home gym.
Wow.
And that has worked out a lot better recently, because I can kind of do it when my body feels like, hey, if I wake up in the morning and I'm not feeling that great, I'll just do it after work instead. And it's really
Yeah.
easy because it's right here at the house. So it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, I still to this day, every day, especially Monday through Friday, I'm working out every single day, whether it's 5 minutes because I don't feel good that day and I know I can't push myself. But like today, I worked out for an hour and 10 minutes. So
Wow.
I definitely still work out to this day. And I still am a huge advocate for, people doing fitness. And to me, it's any type of fitness because it just longevity for your life. So whether you like walking, running, Pilates, like the gym that I was going to was more of a bodybuilding gym. So I actually have even competed. So I've competed 4 different times
That's
on a
so
bodybuilding
cool.
stage. I have won 2 shows, and then I also got invited to the UK to compete in Spain, and that was 2 years ago. So I've even done that because I'll be honest, again, he kind of talked me into it. He was like, my boss was like, I think you'd be great. Like, they have a category for disabled people. I think you would shine. And I went in there and pretty much did
Vincent,
my best. So yeah, I
that is
even did that
so
as well while I was working at the gym. I wouldn't do it now because it takes a lot of time
yeah,
of your life. And I think it was easier to do that when I was at the gym because I was there all day.
sure.
But now I just work out to make myself feel good. But yeah, I was even a bodybuilder and did 4 different shows and traveled around the country and competed, and yeah, it was a great
Impressive.
experience. Yeah, and I even have
Wow.
some clients that I've helped to win a couple different shows too as well. So
Yeah. I've just like the word resilience just keeps like flashing in my mind when I'm thinking of you. How did you get introduced to the Oley Foundation? And tell me about the work you do for them now.
yeah, so it's kind of funny story again. I was at the gym, and
It all comes back to the gym.
yeah. So I was at the gym, and a manager, reached out to me that used to be my nurse manager at my home health when I was younger, and she was like, "Hey, I have somebody that's looking for a patient to do a speech in Washington D.C. at a conference for NHIA, which is the National Home Infusion Association." And they would like for a patient perspective on a certain topic. I was like, I would love to do that. Like, what does that involve? Because she knew me when I was a kid and for a long time, and she knew that, like, I would like to advocate, or I'd like to talk to people about this because I like to spread the word about what you can do with your life outside of chronic illness. It just takes a little planning and modification or this or that. And so she put me in touch with this gentleman named Ryan Garst, set everything up. I went to DC, and that was March of 2023. So I gave a speech there. It went great. And that's where people kind of started to recognize where I am and what I'm doing. And then about 6 months later, the CEO, Beth Gore, actually reached out to me from the Oley Foundation. And she said, "Hey, I have an opportunity for you to do another speech in Tampa," which is like an hour from me. And she said, "We have a conference and we'd like you to speak for us." And I was like, "I would love to speak again." And I still didn't really know who Oli was or what the foundation really did, because I just had never been introduced to them. I just knew sort of what they did. Went and gave a speech for them, learned a lot more about what they did. And at that time, there was a lot of changes happening at the gym. So I really wasn't like as happy as I was working there. Things were changing a lot. When I went to corporate, things changed for me because I just was helping less clients and like
Mm,
training less people, and I was more opening gyms, and it was just a different role.
yeah.
So I felt like I needed to help people more. So I
Mm,
had been talking to Beth Gore for a while, like, "Hey, I'd really like to be advocating. Like, I feel like this is what I'm made to do. Like, doing those speeches is kind of like what I should be doing." And so for about a year, me and her had worked together about trying to find me a job in this space somewhere. And then one day she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a job opportunity for you. Would you like to talk about it one day?" And I was like, "Sure. Like, I have time, these couple days a week. Like, let me know." So we did a call, and about 20 minutes into the calls when I realized, like, this is for her, like, this is to work for Oli. And I was like, "Oh, this isn't like to work for another company. This is to work for the Oli Foundation." And she introduced my title to me, which is the Community Engagement Coordinator. And basically, I am to and for the voice of the entire nutrition support community.
wow.
So from my daily, I connect people. So one of my favorite things to do is I run our peer-to-peer support program. So when someone reaches out to Oley and says that I need some peer support, I'm just going through it, I need somebody to talk to, I go through our database, I go through our ambassadors, and I go through all of our people, and I find somebody that has like a similar story or
Mm.
situation, and I pair them and connect them. And I've been able to connect this year alone over 40 people, and it's been a
Wow.
great experience. Like, even two people that I connected have now started a business together. So I connected two patients together, and now they've started a business together and are on a business venture because they became such best friends because they lived in the same state. So it's been a great thing. So, and I'm constantly helping them make resources for, like, for travel and how to bathe and really just how to live a life on nutrition support. Because to
Yeah.
me, I always say that we should be patients second. It's person first, patient second. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I may be a patient, but I am Vincent first,
Yeah.
patient second. So it's about your goals and your life. And so now I'm just consistently talking with patients and helping them, figure out how to navigate this journey. I run our support groups as well. So we have monthly support groups called Community Connections, where we get together and we talk about tips and tricks and really how to live your life on nutrition support, and the tips come from me and other people. And we have guests on there, and it's honestly the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Like, I thought the
Yeah.
gym was rewarding and all these things I've done is rewarding, but it's like to have no degree, no anything like that, just because I have a chronic illness. Now I'm out here helping people and doing this every day. It's like the best experience and so rewarding every day when I come to work. Like, it's at my house, like I work from home, but every day when I walk in my office, like, I'm so happy to be able to talk to patients. Right before this, I talked with a patient earlier and he was struggling. So I gave him a bunch of ideas and got him some help and connected him with another member within his state. And, I mean, I'm trying to do as much as I can do, by there's limits. But I'm actually going back to school to do more and, even be more involved. And I actually just took a test to be a board certified patient advocate.
Wow.
So I should get my results this week for that. So I'm hoping I pass that test. So I'm trying to do even more because, with not having a degree, there is some limitations in what I can do or how much I can help. But I am like full on now, like I'm ready to help as much as I can. So whether I got to go to school or get certifications or whatever it is, like I'm willing to put in that work because this is a necessary need that I don't think a lot of patients realize, or a lot of people realize that are out there. And I never realized that as a patient, you could do so much good. Like,
Yeah.
I just kind of thought I was just going to be a patient forever. And, sometimes as a patient, you kind of feel like you're taking advantage almost. I know I did at times. Like, you feel like a burden. You can't really help anybody. But after a while, when you get the skills and you have, you've made those mistakes, you can help people avoid those mistakes by saying, like, that we went traveling and this is what we did, or,
Yeah.
this what worked and this didn't. So it's about turning a thing that wasn't the greatest into probably the greatest thing I'm ever done in my life now. So
Wow. It takes a certain vulnerability to be able to speak so much about what you've been through and connect with others. And like you're just reminding me, like your brain is so beautiful in the way that you're able to like pair people together and take your experience and share it with others. What are some things you want people listening to know about the Oley Foundation? Do you think there's a place for pediatric support there?
for sure. So we actually have a kids club. So we have the Oley Foundation Kids Club. They meet a couple times a year virtually, and they like read books and color together and do things like that. So we have a huge population for pediatrics. We also have an annual conference every year, and at this annual conference, we have really cool things like a fashion show. So we get like the kids and the parents and adults to dress up, and they'll use like some of their nutrition support supplies. So they'll take like tubes and lines and make clothing or make a costume out of it. And we have a teen night. We have like karaoke at this annual conference. So we have so much fun at the annual conference that it's so tiring afterwards because you're just consistently having fun. And
Yeah.
there at that conference, you can connect with other parents, you can connect with other patients, you can connect with other adults that are just like you. Like, I've
Mm,
never been in a place where I feel so much like support, because everywhere you look is a patient or someone that's dealing with what you're going through, and you don't even have to explain it. You just know
that's
because
it.
they're there. You see their tubes, you see their lines, like, you can see that they're there for the same reason that you are, and it's so impactful. I went in 2024 as a volunteer, and that was a huge experience where I was like, this is a very amazing conference. And we have also industry comes, so like we have a bunch of different partners that come, and it's pretty cool because I remember when I volunteered in 2024, there was a young lady that was having an issues with her pump, and right there, she was able to get her pump issues figured out because
Wow.
she went up to the table of the people that make the pump and was like, "Hey, I'm having this weird issue. Like, it's really weird. I don't know if it's common, like, but would you be able to help me?" And I was there watching the whole situation where like three or four people came together from that booth and were diagnosing what was going on with her pump in the moment. And
That's
when
so
she left
cool.
that day, they had figured out what was wrong with the pump, what she needed to do once she got home. They were able to help her on site with some stuff that they had brought with them. So it was so impactful to be like, here it is. This girl's been having this pump issue for like 6 months, she had said.
Mm,
And within 5 to 10 minutes, their team had figured it out, got it figured out, sent her home with stuff that so it would she would be okay, and then also said, like, "This is what I would do if I were you to get this permanently fixed once you get home. You know, like, you probably need a
mm.
new pump," or whatever they said. But though that's what's happening at our conference.
Wow.
It's very special connections. I've talked to people that they have met like some of their best friends at conference because,
Oh,
they were friends on Facebook and they knew of each other within a group that they're in because they have the same illness, and then they met at conference, and now like every year they go to conference and they meet their best friends every single year, and some of them will even like stay together, and like they just make like a party out of it, and it's so cool to see and watch. And there's the thing I really like too is like with the kids club. The kids club is so impactful. Like last year, the aquarium and the zoo came in. So they brought animals into the hotel so the kids could see the animals. Like, there's
yeah.
so much that happens with the kids club. And it also is what I like about it is it gives the parents time to be able to go to some of the educational sessions that we have, because
Yeah.
they can take their kid, they can go to kids club, and then they can go and meet other parents, and then also go to our educational sessions and learn like what the newest thing is, or maybe talk about those mistakes that they made. And we have tons of parents that speak. Almost every one of our educational sessions has like either a parent and a lived experience on it with a clinician. So you're really getting like multiple different views and angles. It's not just a clinician angle versus, a patient angle. We have multiple different avenues. So for pediatrics, like, we have so much to offer, and we're going to be expanding our pediatric program even more because we know that throughout the year there's more attention that's needed for sure to these pediatric kids.
Wow. Well, I'm so grateful that you're in that position. And Oley Foundation is such an amazing organization and so smart to find you, hire you, and say, we need you. We need you, Vincent.
Yeah.
I want to close with number one. Can you please share where people can find you and follow you? Because I know they'll want to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, I have Facebook. It's just my first and last name, Vincent, Vincent. My last name is spelled Rosche, Rosche. I also have a Instagram, and it is chronically_fit life, and it goes through all my life, all my journey. Has my dogs on there, all things like that. I do have a TikTok as well. It's called Femoral Life. I don't post too much on that, but I'm getting a little more into content and doing that. And then you can always find me at oley.org as well. So that'll be the Oley website. So if you guys want to contact me through there, my work email is on there. It's just vincent.roche@oley.org. So
That's perfect. Vincent, I want to know some of the things you're most proud of about yourself.
oh
Maybe some
man,
things that you didn't know, like when you were a kid, that you would end up feeling about yourself.
I didn't know that I could do any of this. So growing up, I thought that I was not going to go to school. I was not going to work. Like there was no, I was going to live with my parents forever. Like I thought there was so many limitations on my life and what I could do because I had a chronic illness. And in reality, that was the biggest mistake or the biggest like thing that I thought that was false in my life. Like the more that I put my mind to or tried, I've done it. Like I did the personal training thing. I got 6 certifications. I went to number 3 in the company. I opened up 8 locations with them. Like when I started, we had 1. When I left, we had 10. So I did it all. Like I worked at a body shop for 7 years on cars. Like before that. Um Pretty much anything I've put my mind to, I've just worked harder than the people around me. I think that was the biggest thing too is it takes a little more work to get where I was than I would say the person that's not chronically ill. But to me, I feel like everything I've done is mean more. Like specifically like the bodybuilding when I won first place and got invited to the UK, that meant more to me than anything because I had worked my butt off to get there. I had also battled the hospital 2 times during my prep that nobody even knew about. That one, well, some people knew about, but nobody in the audience knew about that. The judges didn't know about that. So it's really hard to pinpoint one thing. I think to me, my biggest achievement is getting to the Oley Foundation and now helping people. Like the rest was like the bodybuilding, that's kind of like for me and myself. But I think the most rewarding thing is what I'm doing now is getting to help patients just like me every single day and really using my lived experience as the only thing that really I have to do this is because for 30 years I've been doing this off and on every single day and I was already kind of helping people through support groups and Facebook groups, I would comment, hey, it's going to be okay. Like you'll get through it. These are the tips that, you can take. But
Yeah.
I think that my biggest accomplishment is working with the Oley Foundation and getting to where I'm at by just living life and getting yourself out there and being vulnerable too. Like, even though you're chronically ill and you're already vulnerable, like sometimes it's hard to make yourself even more vulnerable,
Right.
but it's really about, kind of putting all that aside and really thinking about you can still do anything you put your mind to. Like it may take more time, it may take a little more effort, but like for me, I always wanted to finish college and I haven't gone since 2011 and I signed up for classes yesterday. So even if you can't get something done in the moment and you have to take a break or your
Yeah.
illness comes up and you have to, put a pause on things, that's okay. I think that nowadays is everybody looks at the internet because we have the internet so much and it's like, well, I'm behind or, I haven't purchased a house, so I'm, behind from all my friends. Yeah, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
So, it may take some person 6 months to get a bachelor's degree because they have nothing to do and they put all their time into that. Or it may take someone 5 years to get a bachelor's degree because they have kids and a life and all these other things that are in there. So I think it's about being easier on yourself. I know I was really hard on myself as a kid. Like, I got to do this, I got to do that. Like, I'm behind. All my friends are doing this. And the older I got, none of that mattered because now when I look at my life, I'm way further than I ever thought I would be, and even some of my friends, like I have more than some of my friends now. And it took more time, but I've passed them now because I took the time to wait and make sure it was the right moment. Like if I would have got the job with Oli 10 years ago, I probably couldn't have done a
Right.
great job. Like it was the time, it was the place, and that the gym really helped me grow as a person and doing things that I was not comfortable with. I wasn't comfortable training people at all. The first client I trained, I was scared out of my mind. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It only been working out for like a year. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And then I ended up being like one of the top trainers in the company and getting offered corporate position because I had worked my butt off and shown that, like, even with my chronic illness, I can still help people and do things. And I always think that, like, you just got to figure out a way, whether it's like my dad always says, like, adapt, overcome. You got to figure it out. You got to adapt to it and then overcome. Like, you can do anything you want. It's just a little bit modified, I think, is what people need to realize is like modifications to anything will help you succeed. You just got to figure out what those modifications are and then work with the people that are around you, whether that's your medical team. I know my medical team, they're always aware of everything. Like, when I
Yeah.
was bodybuilding, they were aware of that. What I'm doing now, they're aware of. Like, when I go to conferences, I'm like, hey, I need to go out of town on these dates. Like, we need to make sure, like, my health is good. Like, these are the action steps. Like, how can you help me help you? Like,
Yeah.
it's really about being a team, like, instead of you're telling me what to do. Because
Right.
you can tell me what to do all day, but if it's not going to work for my life, I'm probably not going to do it. So
Not
we
gonna
need
work.
to
Yeah.
talk about this as a team and figure out what works for you and what works for me. And there's been times in my life where, like, what I wanted to do couldn't happen at that time. And we had to wait or adjust, and it was hard for the doctor or the clinician to be like, I don't think that's a good idea right now. But in 6 months, let's review and come back to it. Just don't
Yeah.
forget what you want to do. And sometimes you have to take a pause, like I did at college. And now I'm so excited to go back. Like, I was giddy yesterday because I'm like, I signed up
Yeah.
for classes. I'm like, this is so fun. Like, and I'm
Super cool.
34, which most people at 34 already have their degree. But to me, I'm like, you know what? I just now kind of figured out what I want to do for the rest of my life and I'm doing it. So now I know what degree I want. So I took a
Yeah.
pause and now I'm going to be able to actually have a degree that will help me and help other people versus just help me. Because the
Uh,
degree I was going for before was internet security and IT development. That wouldn't have helped patients. That wouldn't have helped anybody in my scene. That would have just helped myself with a job. And that's not the type of job I want. I want a job that's going to help me, but then I also want a job that's going to help other people as well. And that's why I decided to go back for, like, social work and counseling and, like, therapy type of degree, because now I can use that for what I'm doing more. And it's only going to help the people that I'm working with every single day.
oh, yeah, and you're gonna be so excited to get in there and learn because it's what you want, and I
Yeah.
think, like, no one is defined by one thing, whether it's a diagnosis or the degree they got or the job that they have. We're all so many things. Vincent,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time today and being exactly who you are and sharing the hard parts and the way you felt and the way you've overcome and adapted. It's really amazing, so thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, like, to all parents and people that are listening to this podcast, like, it's gonna be okay. Like, it gets easier. Like, every
Yeah.
day it gets easier the longer you're doing it because you find a routine and it just becomes part of your life. Like, I'm connected to my TPN right now, and we have a joke in my family that we call my pump Robbie. So we know in my family, like, is Robbie coming with you? I'm bringing my TPN with me. So, like, that's like, you just figure it out on how to make it the easiest and the funnest you can. Like, you got to have fun while you're going through this as well, too, because if you don't have fun and you're not laughing, like, it's going to be so much more harder. And, like, that was my stepdad coming up with the name Robbie. Like, Robbie the robot is what he used to call him. So I'm just like, yep, Robbie's coming with us. And then everybody knows, like, my friends and family know, like, if I say Robbie's coming, that means I'm bringing my medicine with me. And if Robbie's not coming, then I'm not going to be connected to my TPN that day. So it's, even finding the joy in the little things like that makes such a huge difference.
I love it. Well, thanks, Robbie, for giving our favorite guy, Vincent, exactly what he needs. Thank you so much, Vincent. So good to
Of
be with
course.
you.
Thank you.
For those of you who are joining us today, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am a child life specialist. And the suggestions and tips and resources that I talk about with parents on this podcast may be great for you and they may not be right for you. So, the most important person you can talk to about getting support is your care team, your doctor who knows your story and your child's story. So, regardless of maybe what I mention or what other families mention here, we're not licensed therapists, we're not doctors. We're having a conversation about what the parenting journey has been like. So, please keep that in mind as you listen today.